everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Jo's Journey to Medicine, where I talk about everything related to graduate entry medicine in the UK. There are 3 admissions tests used by medical schools as part of their application process. These include the UKCAT, the GAMSAT and the BMAT. The 3 tests are different to each other and test different things which make them unique to each other. Today I'm going to be talking about the UKCAT, probably the most common admissions test used by universities. The GAMSAT is also used quite a lot. However, the BMAT I think is only used at Oxford for graduate entry medicine, but this does vary and I think may have changed from when I applied, so make sure that you check if the BMAT, the GAMSAT or the UKCAT are required for your application cycle. It is worth mentioning that both the UKCAT and the BMAT are used by some universities as part of their undergraduate admissions process, and so there is a chance that if you applied for undergraduate medicine previously, you already have an idea of the UKCAT or the BMAT. There is no difference between the two at all. So if you've already taken the UKCAT or the BMAT before, then you are slightly ahead. Personally, I have the most experience with the UKCAT. I have sat it 2 times. I first sat it in 2013 before I applied to undergraduate medicine, and I also took it in 2016 before I applied for graduate entry medicine. So I've taken it twice, and that's why I have the most to say and the most tips to give on the UKCAT. Okay, so what's the basic information about the UKCAT? The UKCAT is a computerised test that takes about 2 hours, and it is a multiple choice test. It's taken at a test centre, probably the same test centre as you would take your driving theory test. So if you've taken your driving theory test somewhere near to you, then it will most likely be in the same building, same place, same computers. The test is divided up into 5 different sections. Each section has a different number of questions, and also each section has a different length of time in which you must complete the section. This means that some sections are harder and are therefore more time pressured than the others. Obviously it is down to personal strengths and weaknesses depending on which ones you find easier and harder, but there is a general consensus that the quantitative reasoning section, the verbal reasoning section, and in some cases the abstract reasoning sections are the most time restricted, but the situational judgment section is known for it being the least time restricted. Each section is timed separately, and your time from one section does not go over into the next section. So if, for example, you have more time left over from the decision making section, you can't sort of carry over your extra time into the quantitative reasoning section, which is a bit of a pain, but it makes sure that it's fair for everybody. Here are the sections of the UKCAT with the number of questions they each have and how long you have to answer each section. For verbal reasoning, you have 22 minutes to answer 44 questions. For decision making, you have 32 minutes to answer 29 questions. For quantitative reasoning, you have 25 minutes to answer 36 questions. For abstract reasoning, you have 14 minutes to answer 55 questions. And for situational judgment, you have 27 minutes to answer 68 questions. As I said before, each of the questions is multiple choice, and as part of those time limits that I just read out, you have 1 minute at the start to read through the instructions. Personally, I didn't read through the instructions in that much detail. I used that 1 minute to sort of rest my eyes and take a break before starting the next section, but as I said, it's only 1 minute. You do have to pay to take the UKCAT, So it costs £65 to take the UKCAT, but if you want to take the UKCAT after the 1st of September, the price of the test actually goes up to £85. The latest date that you can take the UKCAT is the 3rd of October, but you must have booked your UKCAT by the 19th of September. Bear in mind that bookings can get very full towards the end of the exam season for the UKCAT, so if you want to take it later and you know that in advance, I suggest booking it as early as possible. You can always rearrange it, that's not a problem, but if you know you definitely want to take it later on, then you'll have to book a bit earlier because those do go quite quickly. So in order to take the UKCAT, you will need to register online. If you go to the UKCAT website, in the top right hand corner there will be a link for you to click to log into the Pearson VUE website. Here you'll need to sign up for an account if you don't already have one, and from there you will fill in your personal details. There's a questionnaire that you will have to fill in, and once you've got an account you log on and then you can book a UKCAT exam. If you have extra time, then there is an alternative version of the UKCAT that has extended timings. It's called the UKCAT SEN. So if you have a medical reason, which means you need to have extra time, then make sure you apply for that. Bursaries are available for the UKCAT, so check out that information on the UKCAT website. It's only possible to take the UKCAT once per admission cycle, so if you do badly you can't retake it later on in the season. That's why I'd recommend making sure you are fully prepared before you take the UKCAT. Also, if you don't get in the first year and you have to reapply and take another UKCAT, you must do the UKCAT again. You can't reuse your UKCAT score from a previous year, so remember that, it's really important. It's a bit of a pain, especially if you've done really well one year and you've just been unlucky and haven't gotten in, but it's the way the system works, so make sure you retake it if you reapply to medicine. So how do you prepare for the UKCAT? On the UKCAT website they have a booklet on how to prepare for the UKCAT, and they recommend practice, and to be honest that's really the best advice that I have as well. You need to practice, practice, practice. There's no other way to it. You have to practice, and you need to leave enough time to practice, because the UKCAT is a skill in a way, and with any skill you need to practice, but repeat your practice again and again. In order to prepare for the UKCAT, different people will have different preferences as to which books they use, what websites, things like that. So I'm just going to tell you about the resources that I used and that believed really helped me in my UKCAT preparation. I know that a lot of other people recommend these books and websites. So the first book that I recommend is the Get Into Medical School 1250 UKCAT practice questions, including a full mock exam. And this book is by Oliver Pickard. So this book is part of a group of resources, all made by the same company, aimed at helping students get into medicine, undergraduate or graduate entry. For me, this book was probably one of the best resources that I used in my UKCAT preparation. I used it both in 2013 and in 2016. They update the book quite regularly, so I actually had to buy a different book when I took it in 2016, purely because there were different sections and the questions had changed ever so slightly. Each question has a detailed explanation as to how you can get to the answer, why the answer is what it is, things like that, and how you can see that pattern or very similar patterns in different questions. So it's really good at helping you develop the skills that you need to identify the ways of answering the questions. Some people will say that the book isn't very representative of the UKCAT test itself. They say that some sections of the book are harder than they are in the actual test, especially the quantitative reasoning section. In the UKCAT test, some questions are going to be easy and some are going to be hard. And I think if you are exposed to a wide range of difficulties of questions, you're more prepared for the test day. I would highly recommend this book. So the second book that I would recommend is the Score Higher on the UKCAT, the expert guide from Kaplan, with over 1,000 questions and a mock online test, and it's by Brian Holmes. So this is by another company aimed at medical students, Kaplan. You may or may not have heard of it. For me, this book is very good, especially if you are completely new to the UKCAT. I think this book is really good at sort of gently easing you into preparing for the UKCAT itself. It has lots of questions for you to attempt, and it does have explanations on how to get the answer, but they are nowhere near as detailed as in the other book. I would also say that the questions in the Kaplan book are somewhat easier than the UKCAT test itself, but I think if you're just starting your preparation, then I would definitely recommend this book. An advantage of this book is that the mock test is actually online, so you just get like a username and password to log on, and you can take your mock test on the computer. So this is really good, especially considering that the UKCAT test itself is computerised. So by taking the mock test online, you get a feel for the screen layout and the on-screen calculator that you're going to be using in the test. So that's an advantage over the other book. Ideally, you would use the two books in conjunction with each other or one after the other. I definitely don't think the Kaplan book alone is enough, but I definitely think it's useful. The Kaplan book is cheaper than the other book, which is always an added bonus. But the downside to the Kaplan book is that it hasn't been updated for a while, and they definitely don't update it as regularly as the Get Into Medical School series, the first book that I recommended. So that's worth bearing in mind, but depending on when you're taking your exam and if the questions have changed at all from the previous year, then it's definitely worth considering. So another resource that I highly recommend, this is probably at the very top of my list of recommendations for preparing for the UKCAT, and that is the Medify online course. So this is online, it's a website. It's quite expensive, but I think you definitely get your money's worth. This course is so good. It's not really a course as such, it's more a website. So it's got different sections, like a learning section, a practice section, and a test section. So the learning section is basically just web pages of text and the odd video explaining how you can answer the questions, the timings, things like that. General information about that section of the test. And I think it also divides it up into the different question types, because each section is made up of different question types. So the learning page is useful. Personally, I would use the books first and then go on to Medify as like a final practice, but you don't have to. The practice section of the Medify website has thousands. I think on the website they say they have more than 4,000 questions, so you definitely won't be at a loss for what to do. There are so many questions. They time you for when you answer a question, they time how long it takes you to answer the question, and when you submit your answers, it will compare the average time of everyone who uses Medify against yours, so you can see roughly where you are in comparison to everybody else. It's got sort of good analytical data on your performance, so you can see which bits you need to improve on and which bits you're doing really well at. It also has full mock exams in the test section. These are both in the form of full exams, so full 2-hour exams, but also they've got mock exams for each section. So if you've been working really hard on, say, abstract reasoning and you just want to see where you're at and test yourself, you can just do an abstract reasoning test. The computer layout is very, very similar The keyboard shortcuts are similar as well, and you've also got an on-screen calculator to use, which is really, really useful. You can't use a normal calculator in your real UKCAT test, so it's good to be able to practice on a screen with the on-screen calculator. It just sets up a really good simulation of your test day. If I haven't sold Medify enough as it is, you can actually try it out for free on their website. They have a demo that you can try out just to see if you like it and get a feel for it. But I would really definitely recommend Medify to anybody taking the UKCAT. So I can't not recommend the official UKCAT preparation free resources that they offer on their website. The UKCAT website has a preparation section where you've got full mock tests, you've got practice questions, you've got explanations of the sections and the timings, and you know that this is going to be up to date. So that is why I'd recommend the official website. Personally, I don't think the resources on their own are enough. I think they're somewhat limited, but they are definitely useful nonetheless. They have full mocks, I think they have 4, and these I found were really useful in the week or the couple of days leading up to my test. Again, the layout is identical to that of test day, so Medify is extremely similar. The UKCAT website is identical, but definitely give it a go just to see where you're at. So those are the resources that I would recommend. Obviously there are hundreds and hundreds of books and websites and courses and everything. So there are courses that offer face-to-face tuition, tutorials. I think Kaplan do them, as well as Medic Portal. They all offer face-to-face courses. You're typically in a group. You'll be there for a day or 2 days and you'll get quite intensive training. Now these courses, they are good, but they are really, really expensive. And I've done a course myself, and at the time when I was doing it, I did find it really, really helpful. But in hindsight, now that I've done the UKCAT twice and I prepared for it, there wasn't anything inside the course content that I couldn't have found out myself, whether that's online or in books. And obviously it depends on the way you learn. If you're very much a person who needs a set schedule in order to prepare for something, then this course might be really useful for you, even just as a starting point to get you in the zone. For me, on its own, wasn't particularly useful as a whole. As I said, they are very expensive, and I think your money might be better spent on buying an extra book or getting an extension on the Medify course online, rather than spending hundreds of pounds on a UKCAT course. As I said, it is up to personal preferences and how you learn. This is just my opinion. So that's all the information and tips I have on resources for the UKCAT. I'd also just like to give you a couple of tips and advice that I learnt through my experience of taking the UKCAT. So the first is to get a good night's rest and make sure you are well rested for test day. Get an early night, try to relax before you go to sleep. Don't do too much preparation late at night, it won't help you. The UKCAT is 2 hours long and you really need to be well rested for the test itself. This is linked into the first point, but book a time for your test that suits you. If you don't wake up at 11 AM on a regular basis and then suddenly you've got a test at 9 AM, your body clock might not be fully adjusted and you'll just feel exhausted and you won't do your best. So book a time that's appropriate for you. So my third tip isn't exactly a test day tip, but it's very important nonetheless. Try to take some mock UKCAT tests in exam conditions. So that means take a computerized mock test, don't have your music on, no phone, use the on-screen calculator that's part of the simulation, not like your standard Windows or Mac calculator. Try to just do it in full proper exam conditions. I also would recommend avoiding the use of your phone, social media, or anything involving a screen before you take your test on the day. because the test is 2 hours long, it's quite a long time to be sort of sat at a computer non-stop without really looking away. You do get those 1 minute reading times between the sections, but that's not really enough time. So my fifth tip would be to try and find your test centre the day or 2 days before your actual test. This means that you'll have an idea of how to get there, find out exactly where it is, and you'll also get an idea of where you can park if you're driving, or if you can be dropped off right outside, as well as things like traffic on your way, roadworks, anything that you can help to make the test day less stressful. My sixth tip is to make sure you get to the test centre at the very least 20 minutes before your test is due to start. This means that you've got time to show your identification, sort of check in at the reception desk, get a feel for the room, things like that, and just have a couple of minutes to sit down and relax before your test. So I briefly mentioned ID. It's really important that you bring the correct identification with you on the day of your test. There is an approved list of ID that you must provide, and this can be found on the email that they sent you when you booked your UKCAT test. I believe you can also access that list from the UKCAT website. You won't be allowed to take your test if you don't have the correct identification with you, and it's really important that your full name and your date of birth match exactly between the name booked as the UKCAT and your identification, and that includes things like middle names. So just make sure it's exactly the same. So it's worth checking it maybe 2 weeks or a week before you take your test, just so that you can make sure you've got everything you need for test day. The test centre will provide an A4 whiteboard or a booklet of sort of laminated A4 paper with a marker, and that'll be what you can do your rough workings in. So you don't need to bring any rough paper, any pens or pencils, nothing like that. Everything you need is provided to you on the day, so just try to limit what you can bring. You are given a small locker to keep your coat in, your phone, your wallet, your ID, things like that, but it's quite a small locker, so try to limit what you bring, just so it's easier really. Another tip of mine is to start preparing early for the UKCAT, but not so early that you peak or you burn out before you actually take your test. UKCAT say that their best students prepare about 30 hours for the UKCAT. Personally, I started off preparing about 4 to 6 weeks before my UKCAT, where I would do about 3 hours a day to start with, maybe 6 days a week. And then in the week or 2 weeks leading up to the UKCAT, I upped my preparation time per day to somewhere between 6 and 8 hours every day. So I don't know about the 30 hours recommendation. You know how much preparation you need. You'll be able to tell when you start how easy you find the questions, things like that. So do what you feel best for you. I think my final tip is to try to stay calm on test day. I keep saying to limit stress, avoid social media, rest your eyes, just try to relax before you take your test. Yes, there's quite a bit riding on the UKCAT when you take it, depending on how many universities you've applied to that require the UKCAT. But try not to think about it, just do the best that you can. At the end of the day, a certain amount of the UKCAT is luck, depending on what pool of questions that you get. So you can only prepare so much, and the more stressed you get, the less well you're going to do. So just do your best and try not to stress. So that concludes my video on the UKCAT. I hope you found the information that I've provided useful, and the top tips I hope will lead you in the right direction. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below, and please like this video and share it with your friends if you found it useful. And if you want to be the first to see my latest videos, then please subscribe to me. I hope to be doing a video on the BMAT and the GAMSAT combined. So if you have any questions or things you'd like me to answer, then again, leave a comment down below. You can also tweet me or send me a message over on Twitter or Instagram. I'll leave my handles in the description box below. Thank you so much all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!